Hey, what's up guys, Nine Toes here, and today I got for you some, yes, BC2 gameplay. Figured I'd take it a little old school after talking with my good buddy Dizzy Aaron the other night playing some BF3. We were basically in game and in the chat, and he asked me something like this. Something like that. Anyways, what I pieced from that question was, have I ever picked up BC2 ever since playing BF3? My answer to him right back was, not since, realistically, since BF3 has come out. In between the public beta and, of course, the game's final release, had I actually, picked it up. So here's my very first comeback video. Jumping back into some Oasis. Yes, I had picked the meta class and decided to just give it a whirl and just kind of reminisce and go over some old times. You can see obviously I already made a mistake by pressing the wrong button by dispensing health. Instead I whip out the paddle. So, but it's just amazing. It almost felt natural coming back. I mean the old flank routes and what have you. This is probably one of my more favorite maps back in BC2. But I got to touch on something real quickly. Don't Blink recently put out a video. As a matter of fact, kind of comparing the two games between Bad Company 2 and Battlefield 3, and even though they're obviously very different, his point, in a couple of senses, was that the damage model on Bad Company 2, just seemed a little more, how can I say this? I guess fair. In that, it took more bullets obviously to kill your enemy, but conversely speaking, on the flip side, it took them more bullets to kill you. So therefore, you could technically survive more gunfights if you were to obviously duck or run into some cover, which is a monster frustration. I think I have, and I think many of you guys that are have played that Battlefield 3 have also discovered as well too. Is that, for example, I can run behind a rock or behind, let's say, one of those containers in Battlefield 3, and mysteriously we're still getting shot and we're still getting killed, and it's just it baffles me to this day. Whereas in BC2, I mean, it didn't give you a lot of time, but you did have that extra half a second when you knew you were getting fired on. If you could duck into or run into some cover, you could actually technically survive that fight. Matter of fact, there's a clip right here of me getting shot at, but I survived. And I was able to obviously continue my gameplay. And, again, it's just one of the many frustrations between the two games, that, had perplexed a lot of us, that we were kind of, I think, the majority of us that came from BC2 that now play, Battlefield 3, have experienced. It was just a very frustrating model. But jumping back into BC2, I'm going to be very honest with you guys. I know I mentioned in a previous video that, I did plan on, playing a little more. And, again, I guess you could say I kind of broke that little promise in a sort of way. Didn't really know if there was people that would really watch these types of videos anymore. But as I poked around BC2, I still noticed there's people making montages and all kinds of videos here on YouTube, as a matter of fact, with BC2. And as I jump into here, I was really disheartened to find out that these rooms are actually pretty empty. I mean, here I think there was a total of 9 of us, and a lot of these guys, as a matter of fact, were very low-ranked players. And I don't mean that in a bad, disrespectful way. I just mean that it's got to obviously clearly mean that there's a lot of newer players to the game, since I'm gotta assume that it's a lower price point now. I don't know what the prices are, but I'm sure if you look on Amazon, probably a new copy's got to be somewhere around the $15 to $20 mark for new, which means that obviously as a used game, you can probably pick this up rather cheap. And forgive me if I'm wrong, I do remember something, because I do buy all my games new. And I'm well aware that not everyone can necessarily afford to buy a shiny new $60 game on release day. But there was a VIP thing that you had a code that you had to use with BC2. But I almost want to say that had everything to do with the maps, the extra maps, more than anything else. Otherwise, you can jump in and play multiplayer without, the VIP code. Which means that, again, if you borrowed a copy or if you, bought a used copy somewhere, that you can jump in without paying anything additional to play online. Again, forgive me if I'm wrong. If I remember correctly, that's kind of more or less how it works. But, it felt natural jumping back in, to be quite frank. It actually felt pretty good, because I remember these were the days when, you know, when the lobbies were full and we were all fighting over who's on whose team and squad and blah 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 and all that good stuff. And now that it's just empty and it's sad. I actually jumped into a couple of rounds. I want to say a total of 5 or 6, one of the two. And of course, many of you guys that know me, that followed me for any length of time, know that I was a huge fan of the Vietnam expansion pack, the DLC, and you know, jumped into it. And there's actually more people on Vietnam than there was playing the vanilla maps, it seemed, because I mixed them up. I think if I did play 6, I played 3 and 3. Otherwise, I played 3 and 2. 2 being to the Vietnam side. So, but something to that effect. But other than that, I mean, you know, again, just, you know, I hung onto the disc. I'm glad I did, obviously for my PlayStation. And you know, again, if you guys, you know, play on PC or Xbox, I'm sure, you know, many of you guys did as well too. And you know, some of you that I have any kind of regular communication with have mentioned that you know, hey, I definitely would jump on and play, you know, every once in a while or what have you, as a kind of as a diversion from BF3, which I think would be kind of cool. I mean, you know, I definitely enjoyed the game. There are aspects of BF3 that I like over BC2, but I think overall, case in point, for example, the VoIP just works, which is got to be said. You know, the spawn system is better than BF3. It's not the world's greatest, but it's at least better than BF3. You know, so again, you got a couple pluses there. Plus the footsteps. I missed hearing enemy footsteps in my headset, which just don't seem to happen in BF3. And you know, I use that to obviously, you know, flank and find enemies and you know, etc., which you just don't have in BF3. But man, let me tell you, coming back and jumping into a little BC2 is a lot like, you know, hearing from an ex-girlfriend that you haven't seen in a couple of years, get invited over and you grab that ass. And it's so wrong, but yet so right at the same time. And let me tell you, I mean, it's something that I probably would like to do a little more often. Since, you know, the BF3's got, you know, so many frustrations. You know, DICE keeps saying that they're going to address this and address that, but they've been kind of quiet on other things as well too. Case in point, the VoIP, they finally addressed and said that they're going to have a solution, but we'll see. I mean, time will tell. But other than that, you know, this is the end of the round. I didn't want to embarrass myself too bad since it's my first one, but there you have it, guys. If anything, I definitely would like to do, you know, more BC2 videos, quite frankly, if you guys are willing to watch. So let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, we'll see you guys in the battlefield.